Welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, the show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs use human design to shift from hustle to flow without sacrificing results. Come here to become an unshakable human and build an unshakable business according to your human design. I'm your host, Nicole Laino. Hello and welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, everybody. I'm your host, Nicole Laino, and it's me and my lovely transit co-host, Miss Christina Luna, on her birthday eve, sitting down with me to go over the October transits, what we have in store for you for your cosmic weather, what the universe has in store for all of us. Christina, welcome back as always. So lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much. I feel so happy and excited to be doing this with you today, especially because I just came off of a weekend where so many of your beautiful listeners came up and told me that they listen to your podcast, they love your podcast, and they actually listen to me on your podcast. And I just felt so excited and thrilled that I get to be on this platform with you. And I'm so grateful for your listen. You have the most incredible listeners.
We have an amazing audience. When I was at the Powerhouse Women event in August, I met a lot of people who came up to me saying they listened to the show. And I feel that all the time. And people reach out to me on Instagram and stuff. And I'm always blown away by the level of beautiful, powerful, smart, mostly women. There are men too, but just people who listen to this show. And I'm so happy that you got to meet some and that they were giving you the love back because, of course, they listen to you. These are some of our most listened to episodes. People love the transit episode.
Well, I just love that we're doing this, that we've continued to do this. And it's definitely something I look forward to doing with you every single month.
Me too. And like I've said before, it's not the same without you. And we were going to do our little chit chat before. And you were like, let's just hit record because let's just have this conversation on the show. And I think that's probably really good advice. So what are you feeling for October? Is there anything you wanted to say about how September has gone so far? Or the day we're recording this is right after the full moon last night. And
Yeah.
I have definitely felt that energy. I went back and listened to September's episode the other day because I was getting all these things from clients and I was feeling these things. And I was like, I listened back to hear what Christina was saying and then kind of what I was reflecting on. And yeah, to like the day, the emotions, the full moon energy, everything that we talked about, I have felt the entire time. And it was very supportive to me to be able to go back to that and listen to that through and support myself with that. But how are you feeling? What are you feeling about what's going on and what's to come?
I can say I also looked back because, wow, it's been quite an intense month for me in some really low lows because I've been shedding a lot of what feels like an old version of myself or an old version of the way I've related. And that shedding has felt deep, like layers and layers deep. But I also have experienced the intensity of what's available when the real gem of my authentic self is more clearly defined and exposed, more easily able to be expressed. And so there has been a lot of intensity, but it's felt really worth it. And having the context of where we've been, which from the sounds of it, it sounds like almost everyone I talked to said that they went through a valley through the summer. They went through this valley of contraction or this cave of reflection or this season of quiet, this slowing down. And we slowed down and we cleared out and we showed up to September. And I feel that September, the sensation I have about it when I think about it is if you ever go to like a spa or a bathhouse, how they'll like scrub all your skin off and it seems a little abrasive. They're like, we're going to shine this jewel up so bright and shiny. But it might be a little uncomfortable. And if you could stick in it, we promise you won't regret it. But that's how September has felt. And the eclipse also felt like this beautiful window. And we talked about this in the September transit report, this window of, yes, but look at how much more there is for you. Yes, you've released so much. Yes, there are so many things that have changed. Look at what is in front of you, all the things that are possible. And I think that that glimpse was so important. And it's so interesting that we're recording just the day after that because October opens up with a solar eclipse in Libra. It's like the promise of the new seed that lunar eclipse revealed, saying, yes, and you get to define what your relationships look like going forward. You get to define how you show up, what it feels like. What feels balanced for you? You get to decide that. And that's what October opens with. So I honestly feel really optimistic about October. I believe there's still work to do. I believe there's still some shifts to pivot on.
Mhm.
And I feel like September properly prepared us to do that from a clear, grounded, and excited place.
Yeah, I look at the calendar and then in September for me, what came through was my birthday. So I was looking at like my solar return cycle chart for human design. I was sort of looking at the year ahead of what that lays out for me. And I really did have this like beautiful, peaceful weekend for myself, just sort of reflecting on the last year and sitting in my energy, my gate 64, like my land, and then shifting into, okay, well, what does this year look like? And it is funny how that day felt different to me than the next day. This information and what I was able to see with the heightened emotions of gate 6 coming through, we're going to go into gate 46, which is we're shifting over into a new kind of identity to me with that, which is sort of about really leading with experience. And to me, there's something about committing with our energy here. I saw a lot of rockiness in the people around me. I've had clients writing me being like, what's going on? I feel all of this. And I'm happy I'm able to point them to this stuff. I'm like, go listen to the episode and actually hear that we're right in the pocket of this. Can you hang here? And can you see what comes out of it? And then them understanding that and being able to come out on the other side is huge. So I'm very optimistic for this too, because I can see in October, and October with human design, it's every single gate that we transit through is in the spleen, and the spleen gates are all about, in the low frequency, are all about fear. So I want to call out to everybody, and as we go through it, how you look at October and how you experience October is absolutely going to rest upon your ability to not get caught in the fear, to walk with fear, to me. That I don't know what it holds for anybody or what this means for you. But if you start to feel fearful, the lesson with the spleen and the lesson with all of this stuff is just always that on the other side of fear, the other side of that same coin is courage. And if you can sit in it and you can feel it and not move out of the fear, not look to try to, even some of the things you were talking about, what you've been going through and going through some of these lows, to not be at the mercy of them where you're just trying to shake them off so that you can not feel them anymore or feeling crippled by them. If you're just able to sit in them and feel what's there. And to me, the lessons are always, can you find the courage on the other side of it? Can you see this as an opportunity to walk with fear, to learn how to find your strength in those moments of fear? That's been my lesson. I have a ton of spleen gate activations in my chart. So that's just a place that I've had to master. And I've had to learn to walk with fear because fear is consistent for me. Fear is something I feel all the time. And I was at the mercy of it for a long time. I let it stop me. So for me, there's this buildup, it feels like, in September. And then October is going to be make or break to me. And it's going to be determined by how you view what you're feeling. Do you let it stop you? Or do you allow, and I'll go through the fears, we go into fear of inadequacy. Am I good enough? Fear of the future. What if it doesn't work out? Fear of failure. Oh my God, what if I do it and I suck? What if nobody buys? Fear of responsibility. What if they do buy and I can't deliver? Fear of purposelessness. Is this really even worth it? Fear of the past repeating itself. Oh my God, but I had that terrible client and I had those things that happened in the past. What if that happens again? Oh my God, I burned out before and I'm a projector. And what if I take on clients and then I just give and give and give and I find that I'm burned out all over again? If you have that internal dialogue going on, if you notice that, come back here, listen to this again, and recognize that it's the background frequency that's feeding this. Don't take the bait. Those are
I
all the
love
voices.
I love that you're talking about October and fear because there are some astrological situations this Libra season that are specifically addressing fear that are unique to this year, even though human design gates are always this way. The astrology this year is perfectly aligned for us to face those fears in a new way. I spoke last weekend. I did a keynote talk where I actually addressed this gatekeeper that addresses our fear. And for anyone who wants to watch that, if you DM whatever, however, Nicole, you do that, I'll DM you the recording for that talk. But basically, the big takeaway is there is a gatekeeper that will reveal all of your fears to you and speaks the language of those fears. And I'm so happy you listed them. And that gatekeeper is actually someone we really need to have a good relationship with, because what she's actually trying to do is help you to cultivate the courage to walk through those fears before you access more power. There's so much power on the other side of these fear gates. And if you do not have the courage to cross over through that fear, you will very carefully not also give you the power that you could have used to use the fear with the power. It's like this beautiful, beautiful network of openings and closings that protect us from having too much power, having the power that would actually ride on the fear and in some ways derail what we are doing here. So the gatekeeper is reminding you, have you cultivated the courage to cross this gate? Because there's so much power. I just want to make sure you feel courageous enough to yield it. Wield it, wield it.
Wield it. We got you. And I do think that fear it's something to be like, if you can witness it to me, like anything else, like any of the shadows, can you see it as something that comes up for you? Can you see it when it comes up and not think that it's so real? Can you just see it as a visitor? Can you just see it as, oh, there you are again. Hello, old friend. How have you been? I'm not going on this walk with you, because there's a saying out there, can you learn to walk with fear? And I think that's one of the great lessons of doing this type of work, astrology, working with the design gates, working with human design. One of my biggest lessons that I got out of this, and I continue to get, is that you will never make a shadow go away. It will never be gone. It is the low frequency of a thing. Nothing will ever only be in high frequency. The entire frequency band will always exist. It's what do you do when you slip into or you shift into the lower frequency? Do you freak out? Do you stay there? Because freaking out will keep you there longer. Or do you say, oh, I feel like this has drifted off, and you're able to pull yourself back on course? You'll never make fear go away. It is a natural thing in life. It's your relationship to fear that can be changed. And that's all we can hope for. And the potential is always courage on the other side of it. It is great courage. The fear of the future comes from gate 57 to say, like, well, I don't know what will happen if I walk down that path. That's the fear of the future. That's the low frequency. The high frequency of that is intuition, which intuition says, whatever happens, we've got you. We'll know if it's really not safe. We'll know if you have to change course. And if you do have to change course, we'll know what to do. You don't have to have it perfectly planned out. So you have to trust in that gift more than you fear the shadow. So that's what I take away from this lesson. I feel like October is just a big lesson. It is sort of a gym for us in exercising our courage muscles. And October always shows me a little bit of what I'm made of.
Yeah, as it should, because this is the beginning of a co-creative manifesting cycle. And for some of us who especially identify as like, I can do this myself, it takes a lot of courage to show up and actually co-create in a balanced way with another person. And what we create is intimacy. And intimacy is, for some people, some of the scariest things. It's the most transformative things. It's some of the most powerful things. And that intimacy leads to revelation. And so we're beginning a process where we're learning how to trust others in that co-creative process and trusting them to collaborate more deeply in intimacy so that we can learn something new about what life's really about. So let's go into it. Let's go into October. Let's talk about it.
So let's talk about it. Let's kick off by giving everybody we're going into Libra season. So tell everybody a little bit about Libra and what that means from a higher level.
From a higher perspective, Libra is the time where we feel that there's an equation. There's an equation in our lives. We have become a complete and whole person through Virgo season. From Aries to Virgo, we have learned who we are. We've learned what we value. We've learned how we communicate to get those values met. We learn how to relate to our emotional self, and we learn how to create in the world. And then we bring it all together to feel complete and whole. Then we take that hole and we put an equal sign,
Mhm.
and there's another hole on the other side of the equal sign. And we want to balance that. We want to open up its cardinal air. We want to be curious about this equation. And so it's a time where we enter into the gates of what relating actually is about. And if we've really become individuated, we will learn that I'm a whole and you're a whole, and I can be curious about your whole being. And
It's it's not curious about your whole being,
your
your
whole
whole
being.
family.
And I'm not entering into this relationship to try and get my needs met or to try and fill my own hole. I'm actually entering into this relationship with curiosity about what's possible. And so that's what Libra season ideally is all about. Now, the human process is, especially this year, the human process is complex. And this year we've got a South Node in Libra,
Mhm.
and we also have a Black Moon Lilith in Libra. So we are going to be facing this year the final release of different roles and patterns we've had in relationship that simply are not part of who we are now. And so there's this final release, final shedding. So of course, as we release and shed, we will encounter opportunities to feel the old ways again. So
Mm.
when we encounter those opportunities, we could feel a little fear, and that is an opportunity to do a little process and say, is this actually who I am now? Which there could be some Black Moon Lilith, there could be some shame, there could be some fear, some resistance to actually acknowledging the truth of who we really are now. And I wanted to really start that like up front. It's not uncomfortable to absolutely tell the truth of who you are all the time. And I've identified there's 3 pillars of the new paradigm of relationship. And the very first one is absolute truth and authenticity with yourself, really acknowledging what that truth is. We're on the cusp of the second pillar, which is sharing that truth with someone who you're vulnerably connected with. That is sometimes terrifying. And the very last pillar is what we'll experience in Scorpio season, where we release attachment to any way that that vulnerable relationship receives our truth. We release attachment to what will come. And so the reason why some of this fear is coming up is because we, a long time ago, may have traded our authenticity for our attachments.
Yeah.
And this is a time where our authenticity must be as important as our attachments, if not more.
I do feel like as we approach 2027, as we're approaching a lot of these bigger cosmic changes that are happening collectively, there's always this underlying piece of authenticity. We're constantly being called on such a deeper and stronger level these days to our own individuality, to our own sense of self, and to being true to that above all the other things that we have maybe put above that in the past. So I love when you put these smaller pieces, these moments in time, and this is kind of the stage that we're at in that process. Now, you mentioned Black Moon Lilith. We haven't talked about that on the show. Can you tell everybody just a little bit about what Black Moon Lilith is, what it represents, and what they need to know about it?
Absolutely. Black Moon Lilith is an archetype that I am very passionate about. I study this deeply. And the reason why is I actually believe this is one of the subconscious archetypes that protects our power. I believe that Black Moon Lilith is the gatekeeper. She's the one that's creating all of the internal resistance to becoming fully expressed. And it starts when we're little. Anytime we thought that we were loved conditionally, and we learned how to adjust so that we could be loved through those conditions,
Mm-hmm.
we created a little reservoir inside of us that contained all of the personality traits and behaviors that would not allow us to be loved. And then that little reservoir, because we're not accepting that part of ourselves, gets projected away from us. We are not that. That is not us. And it's almost like we're trying to push a beach ball underwater. We spend a lot of energy pushing down these aspects of ourselves, and it takes 2 hands and a lot of focused attention to keep that beach ball down. But when we learn how to have a relationship with Black Moon Lilith and bring that little tiny reservoir of information to the surface with acceptance and awareness, it's like we get to release the beach ball and both of our hands are free to live and express. And so she changes signs. It's actually not a planetary body. It's a calculation that has to do with the distance between the moon and the earth. And so it's kind of a strange little calculation for astrology. However, the archetype herself is very, very real, and she's very, very present in our lives. And there are like 6 different ways she expresses for people. And there's a whole masterclass I created on that that's free on my website if people are interested in learning more. But for this period of time, this season, she's in Libra. And so anytime we have suppressed our truest and most authentic expression in order to have harmonious relationship, in order to keep the peace, if you've ever said to yourself, well, I guess I'll just go with it because I don't want to have the aftermath of blah, 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 blah. Like if you've ever just had that feeling where you're like, ugh, I'm just going to say yes because you don't want to have the conversation or you don't want to make waves or tip over the apple cart. That's going to be a Black Moon Lilith and Libra thing. It's where we've left some power on the table because we just didn't want to deal with the discomfort of the truth. And so definitely coming up for us in this month. It's been here all year. It's been here for some time, but it will feel it even more because the sun's going to cross over this area now.
So what you just said about not voicing your truth because it's uncomfortable, or I guess like acquiescing to whatever is happening because you don't want to have the difficult conversation. You don't want to be in an uncomfortable place. You're just like, I'll deal with that later. For anybody who's not an emotional authority, this will apply to you. That is the not self of the open solar plexus. The not self is to avoid confrontation and truth is what it does, because I would rather stay in the job that I hate or not ask my boss for a raise or not have that difficult conversation with that client or whatever because it feels really uncomfortable. I don't want the emotional situation that comes with that. So I'll live with the outward discomfort rather than deal with that particular relationship, usually a very relationship-driven discomfort. So I wanted to call that out because what you spoke about was very specifically the people who have open solar plexuses. You're going to be even more susceptible to that because that is your go-to. And so often I have people come to me where they're like, no, I don't do that anymore. I've worked through my solar plexus. And then as we're working together, I can call out the moments where I'm like, you're avoiding confrontation and truth here. And when you do that, you're not in alignment with your sacral or with whatever your actual authority is. You're not really in alignment with your truth, however you're finding that. But on this show, we talk about human design mostly. You're not following your strategy and authority because you're letting the tail wag the dog. You are giving in to the conditioning of something, so you are saying no to your truth. So this is a time for everybody to be on the lookout for that, for everybody to, all of us, but certainly those people, if you've got a white solar plexus on your chart, then you're really going to want to pay attention to that because this is going to be something that you do naturally, that your energy wants to go into that conditioning pattern. And you're also going to have the cosmic energies of the time pushing you in that direction as well, or urging you to take that bait as well.
You know, I saw the funniest video today of a series of children in a house of mirrors, and they just kept running. Every time you hear, whoa, 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 don't run. And then they slam into the mirror
Yeah.
over and over. It's comical. And also, oh, these poor kids.
Tragic.
But honestly, this is what Libra season is going to be like. We're going to be running into these mirrors over and over and over because whatever's on one side of the equal sign, we're going to attract the exact opposite. So to the degree that we're not fully expressing the truth, we'll have an equation on the other side that's also expressing not completely aligned with the truth. And so anything we hide on one side, we're going to see it hidden or expressed uncomfortably on the other side. So it's really a time where you get to test your creatorship through your personal relationships. So the best thing we can do is just pay really close attention to the house of mirrors that we're in and proceed slowly.
We're always trying to find our pace, right? One of the things that has been a big growth point for me is to feel like I don't need to be running hard all the time. But I also, if I run hard, I also don't need to dead stop at the end of that either. That finding like a steady pace in life of not making anything too big of a deal, but also never stepping away too much where I feel like I'm disconnecting and I'm numbing out that way. That's sort of another thing that's calling me here, because when I think of October and all of this fear, it's so easy to want to run and hide. It's so easy. And if you're not hiding in fear, I see a lot of people, it's the discomfort of the fear can cause them to take very frantic action, trying to fix things, trying to fix the way they feel. And bad shit usually comes from that. No one's usually happy with the results that they get from that action that they're taking, from that fearful place of either running away from it or just so uncomfortable with sitting in it that they can't sit still. So they take this frantic action to try to make themselves feel better. And then that's going to screw you up for November and for the close of the year, which should feel very different than that. November's always like, I dig Scorpio season. So I'm like, I love this whole tail end of the year. I have a lot of my energy sits in this place. So I usually feel really good. This is normally like a really fun time for me. I feel like the year is sort of culminating and I like that energy. It's never over. It's like, we're going to do it again. There's nothing sad about it. It's we get a chance to do it again. We don't get one shot at this life. We get one shot at this year, but you get another year next year. We get to do it again and we get to do it better. So what are your final thoughts on October and what people should take away? Is there anything that you want to like leave everybody with, or you're like, this is just sort of a nugget that's coming through?
Okay, so the first one is the solar eclipse on the 2nd. That is going to be the seed that we plant for the new type of relationship that we want to invest in. And that's a relationship with our own authenticity and how that creates the material on the other side of the equal sign. Another really strong day is going to be the 8th. And the 8th is going to be a moment where we really start to understand how the openings in new relationship can actually come into harmony. I think there'll be some helpful aspects. We'll have a lot of emotions that are driving our behaviors. We'll have a lot of understanding with Mercury and Jupiter in a trine. And we're going to be able to approach our wounds from a completely different place with more information. And that's going to then lead us into a moment where Pluto begins moving direct again on the 11th. That direct motion comes immediately with some information on the 13th. The 13th and 14th are the other pieces that are going to be really important to slow down. That I think that will be, if we're going to hit a mirror hard, that'll be the moment we hit the mirror. And so if you can slow down and try to allow yourself to just say, what is this teaching me right now?
Mm.
What am I learning about right now?
So that's around the 13th, 14th.
Yeah.
The 14th, we shift into gate 32. So just to give the human design bend on that moment in time. Gate 32 is known as the gate of continuity. What this is really about, this is that fear of failure. The gate of continuity, what it really means is, what do we need to survive and what don't we need? What can go and what's truly necessary for us to not just survive, but thrive. And to be able to look at things, to not slip into that fear of failure, to not slip into like, oh my God, it's all falling apart. Because people with gate 32 can certainly go into that just like, we're doomed sort of energy. Don't try to resist that or to notice what's there and recognize that this energy also gives us the ability to really see a way forward and what truly needs to be taken with us on that path of what's really important. What does that really look like? So that's the human design angle on this piece and that like middle of the month moment.
Yeah, and maybe we should kind of go week by week
Sure.
on some of the way that those gates are presenting. Like, for instance, the first week of October is something that I would consider like the Two of Swords. And I actually call this the integrity filled dance. So when we have the Two of Swords or the Two of Air, it's a moment for us to be in our integrity and understand that will create a dance with the other. And so that's the energy of that first week. And that's when we have that solar eclipse. And then the second week is the Three of Swords. Now, the Three of Swords is typically a more painful moment. When we pull that in the tarot, we're always like, ooh, it has these three swords going through that heart. And I actually call this week the week of being vulnerable and complete. I think what this week is actually asking us to do is to really open up to completely, vulnerably accept our heart. I think the temptation here is to feel the pain of vulnerability and to try to cut back, cut the other. And the thing I always try to remember myself this week is do not use the pain I have in my heart to cut the other. Use it to cut my heart open more. And then now we get to that gate you just discussed around the 13th and 14th. And I call that the Four of Swords. And for this one, I really use this week to tap into my internal wisdom. For some of us, this feels like we get to a little bit of a stalemate. We get to a point where it feels like we're between a rock and a hard place, or we don't know what decision we're going to make now. And it's a time to pause and really get into that internal wisdom and understand that if we still ourselves, the truth and the decision and the way we want to progress, it will surface from inside.
I love that. That first week, what I'm looking at, the first week is gate 48, the gate of depth. And that is the potential. If you can not look at your inadequacy, if you cannot be so afraid that you're not enough, you'll actually find that you have great depth, but it takes some real acceptance of yourself. And there is some bit of mastery. It does have to say, like, do I feel inadequate because I haven't gone deep enough on something? It asks that question. And a lot of people won't truly answer it. They just stay in the fear rather than realizing that if they went deeper with something, the lesson with this is always about learning. It is about having a depth of knowledge. It is a logical part of our energy. It's a logical gate. There's some that are logical, some that are more abstract. This is logical energy that says, well, then maybe you just need to practice some more. Maybe you just need a little bit more experience. Maybe you just need to test this out a little bit more. I'm going to get a little sassy here, but rather than just crying in your cornflakes and talking about how you're not enough and shutting down, that is not at all how you overcome this. You might actually just pick up another book or show up to another thing or apply yourself a little bit more and find all the courage you ever needed in this area. So you have to ask better questions. That's what opens up for me at the start of the month is just, where are you? Where do you have depth? And where could you go deeper? Where are you not feeling strong enough? Where are you not feeling adequate? Where are you not feeling like you're enough? And then is that real? Or is that something where you just haven't really applied yourself, potentially? I had to look in that mirror pretty hard. I have this gate. I have this channel. And that had to be something that I really took a look at. I was like, no, I actually kind of phoned it in a little bit and I really didn't go deep enough. And what happens if I do? And you know what I found? I found courage at the bottom of that well. I found my strength. So that to me, whenever I see gate 48, it's just like, ooh, your depth is deeply tied to how deep you go with the things that you care about or the things that you're afraid of. Knowledge is power. Practice makes perfect. It's not sexy, but it is the cornerstone of expertise. And it is the cornerstone of us really being able to shine like our particular light out there. So that's going to be that energy. You're either going to fall into that fear of like, I'm just not enough, or you're going to find the courage that it's like, no, but I could do something about that. That beginning of the month, it's very much about going deep with yourself to me. And then around the 8th, where you were talking about the other shift, you go into the 8th, you hit that intuition. It's about trusting yourself. It's about being able to say, I'm connected to my own inner clarity and I trust. The spleen is something to be talked about since this is like the month of the spleen, where the spleen is our primal awareness center. It is the center that says it's safe or it's not. Don't go down that dark alley, or you shouldn't be going here. It's the instinct that just turns your car in a direction and you don't know why. And then you realize there was an accident if you had gone your usual way home. That's the spleen. It doesn't explain itself. You just have to trust it. That second week to me is about trust. The 57th gate is the deepest connection to that trust, to that inner intuition that says, if I just trust what my instincts are, there is no future to fear. There's nothing to fear about it because I'm always being led. The only time I can get in trouble is if I overthink it and try to over-engineer this. So there's a lot of trust in that beginning and trusting yourself and then trusting in your intuition to lead you. And then the end of the month, do you see anything? Are there aspects at the end of the month that are important to mention to our people?
Yes. Well, the week of the 20th is a week where we've transitioned into water. We transition into the 5 of Cups. And this is a time when we could be fixated on the cups that have spilled, but there are 2 cups that we can drink from that are full and ready for us. And we have a sun squaring Pluto in that week on the 22nd. And we have Mercury trining Saturn. So, what this means is that we'll have some maturity about what it takes for us to
Mhm.
stack up the emotional maturity that we've cultivated and move into deeper felt experiences. And so, it's like a time where we're like, okay, I'm done. Enough of this grieving, enough of this space of feeling lost or the space of feeling lost. I'm going to pack it up and I'm going to move on. And then beautifully, the month ends with the 6 of water, which are about the sweet moments, the sweet present moments. And I think that only through the journey of this month do we actually start to open to all of the tiny, sweet moments that are always available to us. It moves from the space of the mind and analysis and deciding, and it moves to this place of like, whoa, I get to drink this in my life. I get to receive this. And this last week can feel nostalgic. It can feel like bittersweet in some ways. I always love that it's so worth it to walk through the swords of our mental prison as we get to these last couple of weeks of the month.
Well, and I think what's interesting there, so the 20th, we're in gate 50, which is the gate of values, which is the fear of responsibility. Oh my God, this is really important, but oh my God, what if I can't live up to it? But that 28th gate that talking about, it was all worth it. 28 is the gate of the game player. It's known as, it's really a gate of taking risks. And this is that fear of, what if it all isn't worth it? What if nothing's worth it? What if it's all just bullshit? There is no purpose to this life. That's like the deep, dark, ugly shadow of gate 28. But I think that what you're speaking to is that higher gift of it, which is to say, like, no, purpose is everything. It all has meaning. All of this crap that we've gone through, everything that we've walked through, it made me closer to my purpose, not further away from it. If you pay attention, that's the lesson. So I love when these things jive. It's sort of like just slightly different languages that we're speaking about the same things because, and guys, what I want you to take away from this is that this is what we're all going to be feeling. You're not crazy. So even just talking about to somebody that doesn't even have to know about this stuff, about how you feel, you're probably going to hear them say like, me too, which there's safety in numbers. It's nice to hear that this is just the music that we're all dancing to at this time. So knowing what the beat is can really help you stay with the rhythm of the dance, to know the steps, to be able to keep up with everybody else and to feel good at the end of the night, like you had a good time and not feel like you got tossed by a tidal wave at the end of the month. This is an opportunity, October, to really be able to set yourself up to finish the end of the year, not just strong, but as we shift into the fourth quarter, so that human design fourth quarter of about transformation. That is what it's about. That's what we're all working toward from the beginning of the year to the end. We start with an idea, we start with thoughts, we start with ideas and inspiration, we start putting plans in motion. We start to build relationships around these things and get it out in the world. And then ultimately, at the end, it's about what changed in us. What did we mutate and transform into? What did we shift? And you can't shift. I feel like this is sort of that rite of passage moving us to, because you can't shift without overcoming your fear and without overcoming and learning to walk with a lot of these energies that we're going to be walking through, these lessons that we're going to be walking through in October. So I hope that this helps every single person listening feel really prepared to walk hard and walk strong with their head high and to see what needs to be seen to grow and transform for this year and just in general. Do you have anything that you wanted to close with or you wanted to make sure that you said before we end?
I think just the last piece you said about how sometimes it feels like despair when we realize that nothing means anything. The gift in that is that we get to make everything mean all the things, everything. And so I love that you brought that up because I always get to that place during this week where I get to decide what means something to me. And that is essentially where it's leading because then we get to create from what is meaningful for us. And that's the gift that comes from this month.
I love that you said that you actually reminded me of something I was going to put in my group to say to one of my clients, because it's one of my favorite things from A Course in Miracles. There's an exercise in there. Nothing has any meaning except the meaning that I put on it.
Perfect. That's it.
Exercise right there, like nothing. So let's leave them with that. Let's leave you guys with that. Nothing has any meaning except the meaning that you put on it. If you can hold that in your heart and put that into your experience and into your awareness walking through, I hope that that will serve you well. Christina, thank you as always for being here. If you want more of Christina, you want to stay in touch with Christina, please just DM me the word Christina and we'll send you all of her links. She's also at lunation.live on Instagram and you can find her there. You can DM me for all of her links and all of her stuff. We'll hook you up there. And if you want to stay in touch with me, you know where to find me. I'm at Nicole Laino Official on Instagram. We are here for you. If you want the calendar for this month, DM me the word transits on Instagram and we will send it to you. Thanks for being here. Christina, thank you as always for being here. These episodes are not the same without you. We appreciate you making it to the end of this episode with us. And remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So thanks for letting us help you become unshakable with human design, everyone. We'll see you next time. If you loved this episode and you're a fan of the show, please show us the love on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to the show and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with other entrepreneurs on their human design journey, join our free Facebook community, Human Design for Entrepreneurs. Go to NicoleLaino.me/podcast links to join the group, book a human design reading with me, or access our free human design resources. We'll see you there.